So the reason I'm making this video is an example of the topic of this video. You know, I wasn't even going to pick up the camera today. Don't feel like I'm in flow state. Just finished a work day. It's 9 p.m. right now. And the topic that I was going to talk about was rhythm, right? Rhythm specifically from the book The Kabbalion, Hermetic principle, that all things follow rhythm, right? The seasons, the breath, life and death, man's mental state. And specifically talking about man's mental state, this book right here verifies that pendulums are real, right? The ups and downs of life, it's not by chance, right? It's a requirement of existence. The understanding of pendulums and rhythm and correspondence, meaning that the higher the high, the lower the low is going to be. There also has to be some actions you can take, right? With this knowledge, what do I do? And in the Kabbalion, the principle is specifically to not identify with the lows, right? They talk about two planes of consciousness, right? The lower plane and then the higher plane. The lower plane follows the pendulum, follows the rhythm, the ups and downs. However, the higher plane, through consciousness, through practice, can rise above the lower pendulum, right? So you will never escape the feeling of these ups and downs, the energy flow of these ups and downs. But what you can do, and what the masters do, is when they get in these low states, right, they're able to take actions and think in a certain way despite of the energy, despite the negative mood, despite the negative thinking or the negative energy. And when I first woke up in 2022, right, when I first became a non-NPC, was actually reflecting on my life, seeing how I could improve it, and being self-aware on a day-to-day basis, I started to realize that this is how my life went. I would have weeks or months of feeling great, and then almost inevitably it would follow by weeks or months of feeling just as awful as I felt great. And I didn't know what this was, right? I just called it the highs and lows. I didn't know if it was just me. I don't know if this was a principle of life. Now I realize it is a principle of life, right? And I actually made a YouTube video about this 3 years ago. I had a channel that I didn't tell anyone about. When I first started making YouTube videos, I would just set up my camera. I wouldn't even hold it sideways, hold it right here. And about once a week, I would get myself to just rant for 3 minutes about a certain topic. And this one was the highs and lows, right? Basically, I just said, hey guys, right, in the highs, don't get too high because you're going to come back down. In the lows, don't go too low because you're going to come back up. Pretty basic. What I didn't know was how to raise my consciousness above the state I was in, right? I did not know that self-mastery yet. I did not know how to take action in the lows, right? I knew how to make myself feel better, tell myself we're going to get back to the high, but I didn't know how to make myself enjoy the lows, right? And get the most out of the lows. And that's what I've been able to do of recent, right? I've been able to love the lows. I've been able to, because it's not a feeling anymore. It's a concrete fact in my mind that, hey, I'm in this lower pendulum, right? I'm here because a couple weeks ago I was in a higher pendulum. Let me make the best out of it. And it's something about that knowledge that is so freeing to me, right? The knowledge that this is inevitable, right? But your actions aren't. Simple as that, brother. Simple as that. And all the greats have been able to raise their consciousness above the negative state. I mean, business, look at it. In the business world, you're going to go like this, right? And you're going to go down here a lot. And if anyone who's down here doesn't take actions that they would take up here, right, they fail. They fail, right? And so essentially my goal with this video is kind of to just reassure you, brother, that in this path, right, you're going to go like this. And the goal is to go this way, right? It's for your lows to be higher than they used to be and your highs to be higher than they used to be. But when you're down here and a couple months ago you were up here, it can feel like this is the path your life's going on. When in reality, it's just taking its natural progression of rhythm and you're going to go back up this way. And it can really get a lot of men, right, who feel crushed in these lower states, right? What's wrong with me? Why am I not progressing? Why does it seem like everyone else is doing great? Everyone else is just showing they're up here. No one is showing they're down here. Right, brother? I can assure you everyone goes through this. Everybody. The law of neutralization, brothers. The swing of the pendulum occurred on the unconscious plane, and the consciousness was not affected. This they call the law of neutralization. Its operations consist in the raising of the ego above the vibrations of the unconscious plane of mental activity, so that the negative swing of the pendulum is not manifested in consciousness, and therefore they are not affected. It is akin to rising above a thing and letting it pass beneath you. The Hermetic master or advanced student polarizes himself at the desired pole, and by a process akin to refusing to participate in the backward swing, or if you prefer a denial of its influence over him, he stands firm in his polarized position and allows the mental pendulum to swing back along the unconscious plane. All individuals who have attained any degree of self-mastery accomplish this, more or less unknowingly, and by refusing to allow their moods and negative mental states to affect them, they apply the law of neutralizations. So good. So good. If you were in a negative mental state and someone told you this negative mental state would last for 15 days, right? And on the other side of this mental state, you have the prosperity you've been looking for, right? You have the energy, the confidence, and the results. All you have to do is do the certain daily actions that you're completely capable of doing. You would take the actions, right? You would take the actions if you knew the outcome. However, there is an illusion when we are on this unconscious plane of a negative state that this is our future, right? Our thoughts are tainted in a way to see the future as not attainable, to see our desired outcome as not attainable, to see the amount of inputs required to get there as not doable. But if you knew that you just had to take X inputs to get the result, you would do it. And I'm talking to myself too here. I've struggled a lot with content in the fact of wanting the results faster, right? Simple as that. I posted about 400 videos. I have about 400 subscribers. I thought by video 50 I would have at least 1,000, right? I'm at about a 16th of the pace I thought I would be at. However, I know that in the macrocosm of my content journey, this is the low pendulum. Right here is the low pendulum, right? And when I get to here, when I get to the success I desire, right, and I know I will, look back at that time and be so thankful I did not let myself be victim to the lower pendulum, right? That's what you don't want to be. You do not want to be victim to the pendulum swings. You're going to have them at an unconscious level, but if you can rise above them at a conscious level, you win, brother. You win. And personally, it's been very helpful to have my brother, my coaches to help me through times when it feels like things are crumbling, when I'm at the bottom of a pendulum swing. And for me to my brothers, right? A lot of my guys come to me at the time of a lower pendulum swing, right? And right when they start, they get the upper pendulum swing. They see the improvement. They see the outcome, right? And I always remind them, I say, brother, I'm super proud of you. But beware, in a couple weeks or maybe a couple months, it's going to go back like this, right? So beware. Do not get too high in the highs. Do not get too low in the lows. That's it for today's video, guys. Hope you got some wisdom for this. I can assure you, if you are struggling right now, as long as you're striving, you're right where you need to be. Peace.